Hey guys, CoolCheese here, and today I wanted to make a video on a mouse that has made its way into my regular rotation. So if you don't know, I've been maining the Atlantis Mini for a while now. This summer I picked up the HTS Plus from Jewels, and I really enjoyed that. And afterwards I got this, the Pulsar X2H Mini. And so before we get into the review of the mouse, I want to go talk about the journey that I went on as a mouse enjoyer. So originally, I started with the Bruce Lee X2 at the beginning of the year. And if you don't know anything about the X2, I don't know, the Bruce Lee X2, it looked really cool. And the main thing I didn't like about that shape at first, which I eventually got used to, but it took me a while to adapt to, was how flat the sides were. And so that was like my biggest complaint of the X2 versus the Atlantis debate, was that I would enjoy those Lamzu mice way more just because they're more curved, and so it's easier to find a more natural grip for me. However, with the X2H, if you can see this, they have fixed that problem. And so, oh, sorry for the sensor, the mouse is on. But in addition to having the hump further in the back, the normal X2 hump is about here. This is where the peak of the X2H hump is. It also is more narrow towards the middle, and it has a lot more curvature along the sides of the mouse. And so, this fixed a very big problem for me with the original X2, just because not that I couldn't perform with the original X2 or I didn't enjoy that mouse, and I still do enjoy that mouse. I pick it up from time to time, but it's pretty obvious to me that it wasn't going to be in my endgame list just because of that inconsistency. And so I picked up this mouse a little bit cautiously, I guess, to say the least, because I don't know. I mean, X2H, is it really going to be that much different than the X2? But I was really pleasantly surprised with those changes I mentioned earlier, and after using the HTS Plus, that's the mouse that it kind of reminds me the most of. And so if I pull up ELO shapes here really quick, and so as you can see, these mice don't look like they would feel very similar at all. They look very different, and I mean, especially at this point right here, like, look at how much taller the HTS Plus is over, and then even at the back, like, this hump is like higher, and it's way less, or it's way more aggressive, should I say, than the more slow slope of the HTS Plus. However, something I think that's interesting to note for like myself and like how I grip my mice is this point right here, where both of these lines intersect, coincidentally, is what I discovered to be one of the most important things for gaming mice for me. And if you don't know what that is, and I mean, obviously it's going to be different for other people, but specifically this point where they both intersect is the exact position where I rest the underneath of my knuckle. So right here, that is the exact position I rest on the X2H, and it's the same place I rest on the HTS Plus. And so despite these being two very clearly different shapes, the performance and the feel for me is really similar. And so I'm going to have another video on the HTS Plus later. I love this mouse as well. But I wanted to do the X2H first, as it kind of opened me up to this realization. And so I think, first of all, things that people are going to ask is like, how is this compared to the Atlantis Mini? That's probably my most used mouse for the year. And I can say that I think I do enjoy the X2H more than the Atlantis Mini. If we do another shape comparison here on ELO shapes, once again, if you want to use this site, it will be in the description. The orange being the X2H Mini here. You can see the difference is this hump not only kind of lasts longer, I guess, like it reaches a similar like peak as the peak point on the Atlantis Mini, but it just keeps on going. And essentially what happens is that it doesn't go quite as deep into my hand. And why that's good is my grip is kind of like a hybrid between fingertip and claw grip. And so what that allows me to do is when I'm playing a game like Valorant, Siege, any basically attack shooters where I just need to focus on the X-axis, so just go for flicks and stuff like that, it allows me to have that control of having the claw grip. But like, let's say I'm playing a game like Overwatch or the finals, which I've been recently playing, like, and someone uses a jump pad and I have to go up, my fingers are way better at doing those vertical movements. I can go for my normal grip, which is like this, and so my knuckles making contact right here, but otherwise the back of my palm doesn't really make any contact here, and I can just lift my hand up a little bit and push forward. And so with this hump, like, ending sooner, I guess, or not being, or it being more extreme, more harsh, it allows me to play this hybrid grip a lot better than it does on the Atlantis Mini. Pretty much the Atlantis Mini, it goes deeper into my hand, and since the coating on the Atlantis Mini is really grippy, it essentially like sometimes gets like stuck down here. And so it makes some of those like fingertip movements like kind of awkward to do because it's rubbing against my palm. And the X2H obviously does not have that problem for me. In addition to just being, for me at least, the better shape between these two. Not that I don't use the Atlantis Mini all the time still. I still love this mouse too, but I think my performance is just marginally better on the X2H Mini. Something you've probably noticed is I am using the Struth Gaming's claw mates on this, which are these little red triangle things, look like Monopoly houses. And to be clear, I have used this mouse with and without them. I've pretty much used every mouse I've gotten this summer with and without these at some point. And I will say that these, in addition to just the shape being great, kind of take that another step further. I don't think this mouse is like saved by them in the way that some of the mice that I've tried have been. I think there's some mice in my collection that I wouldn't use without the claw mates, such as the Final Mouse Starlight 12 Medium. Last year, that was a mouse I really enjoyed, but as I kind of started getting a little bit further into my collection and understanding what I liked in mice, just not something that I really like the base shape of. But the claw mates save that. This isn't a mouse where that's the case. I could use this mouse with or without the claw mates, and I would have a great time. But I think it is worth noting for transparency reasons. I have been using these with the claw mates. Fantastic with and without, in my opinion. I guess like build quality and overall just quality of the product. I mean, it's a Pulsar mouse. The original batch of X2s and even the X-Lites before that in a couple years ago were always a little bit dodgy in terms of like QC, but I have no issues with my unit here. And the main complaint I see with the X2H and the X2H Mini is that their clicks have this like weird like two-step system. I definitely feel these clicks feeling a little bit different than some of the other mice I have, but not in a bad way whatsoever. And so I personally have no issues with the clicks. Maybe it's just my unit, but I enjoy the clicks on this mouse. The scroll wheel is super light, which I personally enjoy, but if you want a slower, more tactile feeling scroll wheel, I can see why something else might be more appealing. And the side buttons are phenomenal on this mouse. Some of my favorite side buttons, actually, in my collection. And with all that being said, is this a mouse that you should buy? I think that depends very heavily on a couple factors. First of all, if you are not an aggressive claw user or a claw fingertip hybrid, I think there's better options for you. Even just compared to like the X2 Mini, for example, I've heard great things about that being the better mouse for fingertip grip, and I've also heard just fingertip people in general not really enjoying this mouse. And in addition, if you're a palm grip user, I feel like you would have to have exceptionally small hands in order to palm grip this mouse effectively. If you are an aggressive claw user, I think the next distinction you have to make is what type of shape profile are you going for? I think the best way to show this is comparing something like the Atlantis Mini to the Viper Mini, and just showing that some of these small mice are more symmetrical, like the Viper Mini, and a lot of people like this kind of symmetrical shape where it's a pretty relaxed slope on both the front and rear. And I mean, I'm definitely a Viper Mini enjoyer as well, but I also do enjoy the, I guess, XM1 profile. That's where I think a lot of people are getting this inspiration from, where it's a steeper slope from the front, and then it's still slower in the back, but basically have this like kind of rear hump. And I think if you are a rear hump enjoyer, I mean, you know I am. But if you are a rear hump enjoyer, I think the X2H Mini can be a very good pickup for you. And those are the two main things I would consider. I don't think this mouse is like anything like groundbreaking. It's not like a completely new shape or something that completely breaks the mouse industry or anything. But it is a mouse that I personally really like and will be using within my main rotation for the foreseeable future, assuming that there isn't some new mouse that comes out and completely blows my expectations out of the water. Cough, cough, Final Mouse Ultralight X. That will ship soon, probably, surely. So yeah, if you're in the market for a small mouse for aggressive claw grip, and you like that XM1 profile or the XtraFi M42 profile, I'd definitely say go pick this up. I think it's a great buy. Otherwise, I mean, it's not something that you need. It's not something crazy. If you already have an X2, you already have like an Atlantis Mini, you'll probably have a pretty similar experience. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a great rest of your night. Like and subscribe!